Episode number 172 of the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. Welcome to the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. I'm Michelle, a fertility acupuncturist here to provide you with resources on how to create a wholesome approach to your fertility journey. So today I wanted to talk about nutrition and what I have seen thus far to be beneficial for trying to conceive. And I do want to mention that any of this really doesn't apply if people have food sensitivities. So it's always good to either check or at least notice if you have any sensitivities, if you have any digestive issues. I definitely suggest looking into and checking to see if you have any food sensitivities, because if you do, it can cause a lot of inflammation. It can cause a lot of issues actually absorbing the good food, the food that you want to get. And also, it's going to be harder to digest supplements. So that's always the first thing to look into. But first category that I'd like to talk about is healthy fats. And healthy fats are super important because, number one, especially for your hormones, is because healthy fats are, fats in general are the backbone of hormones, many hormones. And in order to produce the hormones, you do need fats, which is why this whole, what used to be this fat-free diet is actually not beneficial at all. And people used to be afraid of fats, and it was marketed to people, fat-free this, fat-free that, zero fat with dairy. And fats are actually really beneficial and necessary. And healthy fats are important to have. So it's important to have healthy fats, not trans fats, which can be found in things like margarine. They're called hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils, and those are really important to avoid. Those cause all kinds of problems, including fertility issues. So, and they're processed in a way that's actually not very compatible. It's not really good for your body. So it's important to be very choosy with your fats and get them from healthy sources. So healthy fats are omega-3 fatty acids that you can get from salmon, sardines, wild-caught fish preferably, because farmed isn't quite as good and healthy, and a lot of times does have toxins. So it's important to have wild-caught fish. Avocado is great. It also is high in omega-3 fatty acids. Chia seeds and even hemp seeds are also great sources of healthy fats. Coconut oil. So those are really important to have. Olive oil when it's not cooked, because it does change when it's cooked. So it's actually important to have raw olive oil. Olives in general are great as well. So it's definitely important to have your good, healthy amount of fats. If you have dairy, such as yogurt, so long as you're not sensitive to it, I would suggest having full fat, whole milk based yogurt. So yogurt or cheeses, which again, I wouldn't say have too much of it. If any dairy, I would definitely say yogurt is the best type of dairy to have. And if you do, make sure it's a full fat dairy. Full fat dairy has actually been shown to help with conception. Now, an important thing to mention also is to have it organic and hormone free, because of course you don't want to mix any other hormones synthetically into your body or to confuse your body. So definitely healthy fats, and also eggs, they do have healthy fats, but they're also a great protein source, which is the next one. The next category is proteins. Proteins are really important, and they are the building blocks. They have the building blocks to make more tissues, to grow a baby. It's really important to have a high protein diet. And when your body has what it needs to sustain a pregnancy, it will more likely get pregnant. So you're not going to build a home if you don't have all the supplies. And I guess that's like the best way for me to put it. If your body gets what it needs, it's able to then build and support another sprout. This is like a pregnancy is really a sprout, a sprouting of sorts. So you want to have lots of good, healthy proteins. And meat, red meat, I know a lot of people are afraid of it and they think that it can cause more inflammation. And that can be true and untrue at the same time. So if you test for inflammation after people eat non-grass fed beef, so beef that eats corn, so you're basically getting the corn and the sugar into the meat, and that is what you're eating. So it's important to have grass-fed beef because grass-fed beef will not cause you to have the same kind of inflammation in the body. But as always, have everything in moderation. So it's important to really make sure you don't have too much. You just want a variety. So the type of eating that I suggest most is variety. Really alternate foods so that your body doesn't get too used to or to have a resistance to one type of food. Believe it or not, if you do a food sensitivity test and you eat like lots of broccoli, for example, broccoli all the time, your body might actually develop a resistance to broccoli. And one of the things they suggest is to take it out for a couple of months and then reintroduce it back in your diet. So that's the reason why it's really important to have variety in your diet. One of the reasons. Another reason is because you want to have the different nutrients rotating through and giving you all the different, when they say eat the rainbow, you're getting all the different nutrients from many different foods, and you're really nourishing your body and giving it everything that it can possibly need. So it is important to have a variety. So I would definitely say meat, maybe once or twice a week, and beef liver is really great as well, grass-fed. If you can't stomach the taste, I always suggest to my patients, my clients, to have beef liver capsules, freeze-dried, and it comes a lot of times from a grass-fed source. Fish, wild-caught fish, chicken. So you can have maybe once or twice a week meat, once or twice a week fish, and then once or twice chicken, and then alternate how, the one that you have twice every week. Eggs are also a great source of protein and healthy fats, and as well as meat. Meat also has good fats, which are helpful. I know it's cholesterol, but you do need a little bit in order to make hormones. And another thing that would, I guess, be under fats and proteins would be bone broth soup. You could get bone broth soup from grass-fed beef or from chicken bones. If you do chicken, make sure it's organic. You can either make it on your own or you can order it. And there's many, many different sources of ordering it online. Just make sure it's not in a plastic container. That's one thing that sometimes people order it from farms, and it's great, but they put it in plastic containers, and I'm just not sure what they do when they're there. Is it coming from warm? Do they have hot soup going into plastic containers? I'm very careful with that because plastic can cause issues with hormones as well. It can cause estrogen dominance and it leaches into the food. So that's something that I always say just be aware of and be careful. And many people already know that avoiding sugar is really important. Sugar can cause high inflammation. It can cause all kinds of issues. Also insulin resistance over time if you're prone to it. So sugar is not great. And that includes juices. It could be juices from healthy fruits that normally are considered good for you. When you have the juice, you're taking away the fiber of the fruit. You're not really having it the way it was intended in nature. In nature, it has the sugar, but it also has the fiber. It's all put together so that when you digest it, you don't get this immediate spike of sugar in your blood. So it's important to have something where it kind of slows down the process of digestion, where it's the whole fruit. And typically speaking, some fruits do have high sugar. So believe it or not, even though it's coming from a natural source, it is important to make sure that you're not having a crazy amount of sugar. Like things like mango, if you have loads of those, and you have to be aware just to have it in moderation. So complex carbs, you can have sweet potatoes, yams, they're very beneficial, plantains, so they're kind of starches, whole grains, and berries are amazing for the fruit options. And also keep in mind that vegetables, lots of vegetables, they do have carbs in them, and it's not a crazy amount. So those are great carb options as well. You are getting carbs there. So it is important to have lots and lots of vegetables. We suggest in Chinese medicine cooked vegetables when you have too much raw. It does have a cold nature. So we always suggest to have cooked vegetables. It is a lot easier to digest. It's a lot easier in the body. And you could also have seeds. Sprouted seeds are better than, and that kind of goes to the fat and protein part. And sprouted seeds, sprouted nuts, as long as you are not sensitive. So as long as you're not sensitive and you know you're not sensitive, and also keep it at a minimum. You don't want to have too much of anything. So it's really important, like I said before, just to rotate. And the majority of what should be on the plate, what I usually suggest is vegetables. Vegetables should be the majority. It has healthy fiber. It's really, really beneficial for your body. It also acts as a prebiotic. And what you could also do is always put a little bit of sauerkraut with each meal. And beware, because if you're not used to it, because it has a lot of good probiotics, if you're not used to it, it can cause a lot of gas. So you could start out slowly. Just a little bit with each meal is a great way to support your digestion. And then one other thing, which I do mention a lot, is be sure, these are little habits that you can bring into your digestion and your digesting. And one of them is mindful eating. So mindful eating is amazing in many ways. It actually allows you to taste your food, to look at your food, because we don't just eat with our mouth, we actually eat with our eyes. And when you have that, you will actually be more aware of when you're full and when to stop eating. When we eat unconsciously, our mind doesn't tell our stomach. It's like, or our stomach doesn't reach our mind to let us know when to stop, because we're too unconscious. We're not thinking about that. We're focusing on something else like TV or the computer. And basically, it's important when you're actually eating and looking at your food and really being aware, you will start to feel more full when you're supposed to feel full. And it stops you from, it's a good kind of watch guard for overeating. So mindful eating also helps you become aware of how you feel when you eat certain foods. So it'll actually help you become more aware of food sensitivities to a certain degree. Obviously, it's not going to be the same as getting it tested, but you're going to be able to notice certain sensations or certain responses in your body to certain types of foods. Another very, very important thing that kind of is part of mindful eating is chewing. When you chew, you're actually preparing the food to be in the best possible shape to get digested. What's the shape? Mush. You really want to mush it up, make it as mushy as possible so that your body is able to digest that mush. So not only is it you're using your teeth, which are very, very important to use, you're using your teeth. Think about it like baby food. It's all mush. The reason is because they don't really have teeth, or they're not used to chewing it as much. But once they start to have teeth, that's when you start to implement more solids and foods. So it's important to mush. That's the important part about it, because it will digest better. So not only is it just masticating using your teeth, but also while you're doing that, your saliva gets mixed in. And your saliva is super important to prepare you for digesting food, because what it does is it actually mixes in and it mixes enzymes that help break down the food for digestion. So it has certain enzymes that break down starches, it has enzymes to break down sugars, and it has enzymes to break down fats and proteins. So saliva is actually really important in your digestive process. And when you do that, no matter what you're eating, you're able to process it and allow your body to take in the nutrients as best as possible. So those things are really important. So I hope you enjoy this. I know a lot of people are curious about what to eat. Now, obviously, this is a very generalized thing because I'm not talking to you personally. If you do want more customized, I do work one-on-one with people online. So I do have an in-person practice, but I also work with people online and do fertility coaching, which includes diet and supplements, mindset, really the whole thing, everything that I do, including even acupressure points specifically for individuals. But if you want to look into it and you have a couple of questions, you can feel free to visit my website, michelleorovitz.com, and schedule a discovery call where I could tell you all about what I do. And of course, if you want customized one-on-one that's more specific, and I also have the option for food sensitivity testing, Dutch testing, and so on. So I hope this was beneficial though, because it is important to know what foods are supportive of trying to conceive. And most of these are actually foods that have been shown in studies to benefit fertility health. So thank you so much for tuning in today, and I hope you have a beautiful day. So that concludes today's episode. You can find all of the links mentioned on the episode notes. If you're enjoying these episodes, please take a moment to share and leave a review. Reviews mean everything to podcasters, and I really enjoy hearing from my listeners. You can also find me on my website at www.thewholesomelotus.com or email me at info@thewholesomelotus.com. I love hearing from my listeners. If you're interested and want updates as well as a free ebook on my top 10 fertility boosting habits, you can visit my fertility page on www.thewholesomelotus.com. I thank you so much for listening in and hope that you have a beautiful day.